Today is World Lymphoma Day. Lymphoma Australia has released concerning new research which found lymphoma as being described as the good cancer, and most people don't even understand that it is a cancer. To discuss this, I'm now joined by Sharon Winton, the CEO of Lymphoma Australia. Sharon, thanks for your time. Is there such a thing as a good cancer?
I think that's the problem, and that's why we wanted to raise this awareness on World Lymphoma Day. There is absolutely no reason that anyone, when they're diagnosed with cancer, has a good cancer.
And why is there such a stigma surrounding lymphoma?
I don't think it's so much a stigma, it's probably just a lack of understanding about the complexity of lymphoma. It is a cancer and it has more than 80 different subtypes. So it's probably just, again, that lack of understanding about lymphoma being a cancer.
Can you take us through what is lymphoma and how widespread it is in Australia?
So lymphoma is a cancer of the lymphatic system. So it means that it can be found anywhere in your body, and the lymphatic system makes up our immune system. So lymphoma is the 6th most common cancer in Australia. It's the 3rd most common in children. It's the #1 most common in the 15 to 29-year-old age group, and it takes as many lives each year as skin cancer. So when you find out what lymphoma is and then your subtype, it can actually be really quite distressing for a patient when someone then also says, oh, but that's a good cancer. And as I said, there's no such thing as a good cancer.
No, definitely not. Sharon, how difficult is this type of cancer to diagnose?
Lymphoma can be difficult to diagnose just because it can be one of those diseases that you can have a lot of symptoms, but it doesn't necessarily come up in a blood test. Quite often, though, patients will present with lumps throughout their body that they're just not going away, or it could be just the cough or fatigue or night sweats, itchy skin. But for some patients, they can actually present with no symptoms whatsoever. So it's not easy to diagnose, and we also don't know how to prevent it yet either. So that doesn't help when it comes to getting more people diagnosed as quickly as possible.
Take us through the other results of the research. I understand 97% of people said that they would like to see lymphoma covered more broadly and frequently by mainstream media. Why is that?
I think it's just because when a patient gets diagnosed, and anyone who's been touched by lymphoma in the community actually does know what it means to someone. So if you don't understand what you've got, for example, lymphoma, then you're scared from the outset. So if we can raise more awareness about lymphoma and how it affects Australians, then potentially we're going to get more people diagnosed a lot quicker and get them onto their right treatment as soon as possible to hopefully then have much better outcomes for everybody. And then in the research, we also found out that nearly 70% of people had their lymphoma or been told, oh, you've got the good cancer. And again, when we did that with all of our community, it was amazing just to see how much they all pulled together to say, but it's not a good cancer. For patients, they can have chemotherapy, radiation, stem cell transplant, immunotherapy, and now more recently CAR-T. So there's a lot of treatments out there, and sometimes you might only get one, but sometimes you might get 5 or 6 different treatments just because you have lymphoma.
Sharon, how difficult is it for those who are living with lymphoma?
It depends on the subtype. I think as with any cancer, it's getting through that treatment where you don't know how you're going to react, but when someone gets into remission, it can be maybe back to a new normal life again, so living normal life in your remission period. And hopefully for some patients, they will be cured, but for others, there will be a cycle of treatments throughout their whole lymphoma journey.